Alright guys, so now we're with Sarah. We're going to ask her a few questions and take it away. So how exactly do landmines impact the environment?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So landmines, as well as cluster bombs, as well as other explosive remnants of war, are detrimental to our environment. They're horrible. And especially with the ones that are laying dormant, like for Laos, for example. Cluster bombs that are laying in the ground for 50 years now can impact the environment in 3 different ways. And this goes with, extends beyond cluster bombs, but also landmines and other explosive. First one is when a bomb is detonated, it releases horrible toxins into our air, as well as our land and water. So these are like TNT, heavy metal, and they can stay there until we actually clean them up. Just kind of for reference as well, when a bomb is detonated in the ground, it impacts the structure of the soil, right? And once soil structure is changed or altered, it makes it really, really hard for farmers and other folks using the land to plant safely and to grow crops, right? And a soil is actually a very, very finite resource that we have. Once a soil is damaged, it can take like up to 1,000 years to just get 3 centimeters of topsoil rebuilt. Yeah, the second way that explosive ordnance can really, really impact our environment is, thinking about how once like, I'll use the example of deminers that are working in countries that have contamination. Many of these places, they're stationed out in very remote parts. In Laos, for example, they have nowhere to throw away their waste and rubbish, so they start burning, right? And if it catches on fire, for example, it can actually detonate a bomb. So that's very, very dangerous to, obviously, the demining team, humans, and the people living around, but it releases, of course, smoke and things into our air, similar to what we see in the United States with forest fires. And yeah, and that's actually the third play, right? In very, very hot areas, right? Once an explosion happens, it can trigger forest fires, and that can damage the entire ecosystem of an environment, right? And one other thing that I actually forgot to share too is when deminers are out in the field, before they can even do any clearance work, they actually have to cut away vegetation in places like, much of the land in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, very remote places. There's tons of things that have to be done before clearance can happen, right? Before they can actually use the scanner to find like landmines or other unexploded ordnance, that this actually changes the structure of that ecosystem. But the good news is, deminers know this and understand, and many of them have best practices where they actually replant what the natural tree or flowers or other fruits and vegetation that grow in that area. So, I think the more education that we can do with demining teams, folks that work in this area, farmers that live there, and the people who receive the land that's been released after clearance is so, so important to do, because we know that will really, really help improve our overall environment.
Wow, well, thank you so much. I was thinking of other questions. You're airing every time.
Bottom line, unexploded ordnance, landmines, all these things are just horrible weapons. They're indiscriminate. They can't tell the difference between a small child or a combatant, and they're bad for people and the environment, and it can impact for decades to come.
That is such great information. Thank you for educating us.